The first batch of humanitarian aid from the blocked flotilla makes its way into Gaza. Israel is allowing the freight in after checking it for weapons. At the other end of Gaza, an Israeli airstrike kills 3 Palestinians after rockets were fired into Israel. Earlier in the day, the army says 2 militants crossed the border and were killed. This is the reality of the siege that's been in place since Hamas took power in Gaza in 2007. And the raid on the aid ships that tried to break that blockade has put it into the international spotlight.
Israel should immediately lift the inhumane embargo on Gaza, and it should not prevent humanitarian aid being carried to Palestinian people.
Australia, China and the UK are also calling on Israel to completely open its 4 freight crossings with Gaza. Israel says it allows around 15,000 tonnes of humanitarian aid into Gaza each month, but the UN says that's about a quarter of what's needed. And it says items like school books, seedlings and even artificial limbs have been stopped from going in.
Israel's government maintains there's no humanitarian crisis inside Gaza. But that's an easy statement to make from here inside Israel and by people who haven't set foot inside the Gaza Strip in 3 years since the crossings were closed.
In Gaza, no building supplies are allowed in. So we've seen hospitals that remain unfinished. We've seen people still living in tents a year after the Gaza war ended. Even the import of glass is restricted. So this school for disabled children spends the winter with plastic on the windows. Gaza is a place where the only building material is recycled rubble from bombed-out buildings mixed with cement that's smuggled in through the tunnels from Egypt. Egypt also restricts access through its single crossing into Gaza, but has just announced it will temporarily open it for 3 days. Gaza is controlled by Hamas, a resistance group backed by Iran that is sworn to destroy Israel. Israel says the blockade of Gaza is to stop Hamas from building up its arsenal. It also says the siege will stay in place until Hamas releases the Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit, who's been held captive in Gaza for nearly 4 years. But the pressure hasn't worked. Gaza is now a one-party state that some people who live there call Hamastan. Hamas is going nowhere, and it's the people who are suffering rather than their leaders. International pressure to lift the siege on their behalf is growing, but Israel's government is digging in. Ben Knight, ABC News, Jerusalem.